Hello everybody, this is former WWE superstar Eugene, and today we're going to talk about how Eugene's outfit and mannerisms were created, and I'm going to take you behind the scenes on what main event WWE superstar gave me a key piece of advice on the costume that really made it over the top. When I pitched the Eugene character, I really didn't have a character study or an idea in mind exactly on what the Eugene character would look like. I had white boots. I feared that maybe Eugene shouldn't know how to tie his boots exactly correctly, so I didn't lace them all the way up, but I made sure they were tight enough that I wasn't going to twist an ankle. At the time, I had two pair of knee pads. I had a knee sleeve neoprene AMA brand, and then the Trace brand knee pads over it, which are the bigger ones. So I pulled one down kind of over my shin, much like Ric Flair used to wear his knee pads over his shins and not over his knees. Side note, David Flair told me one time the reason Ric Flair does that is because he felt like he didn't have any calves. But all of my trunks had Nick Dinsmore on them, so I couldn't wear those. My good friend Rob Conway had a pair of blue trunks that he used to give the seamstresses to cut a pattern off of. And because they didn't have anything on them, I just wore those. A buddy of mine from Louisville, Kentucky named Vito Andretti had given me the red ring jacket, which he got at a flea market for $7, just kind of as a joke because we would always laugh that the 80s job guys had the traditional ring jackets. So I had it in my closet and I grabbed that, but I thought, you know, Eugene needs to be a little bit different. Maybe I should wear the jacket inside out. So I turned the jacket inside out and it had a white lining, so then it became a white jacket. When I first debuted on TV, I had the little name tag. And it was just a piece of paper and call him Magic. His name is Richie in WWE, and he just wrote it because my penmanship is horrible. And I put it on when William Regal first was introduced to Eugene in the hallway, and that's when he said, "Hello, my name is Eugene." And that became, one of Eugene's mantras. "Hello, my name is Eugene," just by simply having the name tag. Now, Eugene's hair. I wanted Eugene's hair to be big and fluffy. I would have to go to the stylist that worked for WWE. Her name was Jan. She was actually in Eugene's second appearance on Monday Night Raw, where William Regal and I met Trish Stratus. Jan was there doing Trish's hair. Well, Jan would do Eugene's hair, and she would tease it up big and high. And then as it started to grow, for some reason, the hair would just get too heavy and it would fall. So she would actually trim it up and make it a big, huge thing like this. When I did the SummerSlam commercial where Kane popped Eugene's balloon, it was like hairspray to the max. I mean, it was huge like this, and it was like Hollywood hairspray. It was incredible. But that was just one thing to set Eugene apart, as if his hair was out of control. But of course, we styled it ourselves. I didn't style it, but the stylist styled it to make it look that way. When we talk about the mannerisms that Eugene had, I knew that I had to be completely different than anybody else. Everybody still wanted to be a cool, strong heel that got all their stuff in, and Eugene wanted to be a sympathetic babyface that did comedy. So I wanted to go out there and do something that nobody else did. One thing I did was chew on the thumbnail. Eugene kind of did that nervously. Now, behind the scenes where I got that, when I was wrestling in OVW in Jeffersonville, Indiana, before we went to the building in Louisville, there was a family that used to come every Sunday to watch us wrestle. It was Cowboy, who's a legend in Jeffersonville, and his younger brother Billy, and their mother. And they would all walk to the shows. They didn't live too far. Cowboy and Billy were special. And when Billy would get mad at the heels, he would chew on his thumbnail and scream and yell. So I just lifted that from him because I thought it was a funny mannerism that, I could do. But then when the people that knew who Billy was saw me do it, they knew exactly what I was doing. And that was kind of an inside joke between myself and the people that did know that Billy would get mad and he'd yell, "God damn you, tell you 50 hours." At times, I would curl my foot. If you see sometimes, I think you might see it in the training video when William Regal trained Eugene. I had the knee pads pulled down, I had my foot curled, and Regal told me to pull up the knee pads, so I pulled up the knee pads. But the foot curling thing was just something, I don't know where I came up with it, but again, it was like a nervous behavior that Eugene performed when he just can't stand still and sit there. Now, I felt like when Eugene would go to the ring, once he debuted on TV and the people knew who he was, that he was so happy to be there, he was just waving to his friends. And it was something that really caught on. And I always feel like the simplest things are usually the best because the fans pick up on it so easy. And it was just as simple as Eugene going, "Hi, everybody," and the fans going, "Hi, Eugene," and they would wave back. At one point, Eugene, I pitched this to have a piece of merchandise, which was that inflatable hand. If anybody remembers that, it was a huge inflatable hand that I would wave, and they sold like crazy. And soon after that, RVD got his own inflatable hands, and so did Cena, whatever he did, whichever one he did. Yeah, there we go. Yay! One other key aspect of the Eugene character was his voice. Now, the traditional babyface needs a deep, booming voice to be able to cut the promo. "Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens, brother." But I've never been very strong at having a deep, booming voice. But Eugene didn't have to, because of course I had William Regal at my side that could describe or say anything that really needed to be said. Or I had Eric Bischoff in the backstage segment that could get the message across. And Eugene could realistically just go out there and do whatever I wanted to do. A lot of times that is exactly what I would do in backstage segments. I might grab somebody's coat, or I would grab Regal's little pocket handkerchief just to try to rattle him, but because Eugene would just do that, I would lose focus on exactly what was supposed to be going on and get, concentrating on one time I found the fire extinguisher in the back and shot that off. Although that didn't make air, but it was a very funny segment. All of the gear, all the mannerisms, the hair, that was all my idea, my creation. That's what I brought to WWE and showed to them, and they went with it right away. When Eugene became friends with The Rock is when I started using the rock bottom and people's elbow, and the fans immediately reacted. Once that happened, the agents saw, okay, well, this Eugene should be using moves that he saw his heroes use. And that's when I started using Hulk Hogan's big boot and the leg drop and the Stone Cold Stunner. Now, Austin wasn't on TV at that time, but a couple months into my run, he came to a show, and I'd shaken his hand before, but I went up and talked to him for a second, but I was getting ready. I had to go to the ring, or I had to go film a backstage segment or something. And he looks at me and he goes, I think he was ribbing me. I hope he was ribbing me. He goes, something about why are you using the stunner? And immediately I got nervous, because when The Rock came, I asked The Rock if I could use the rock bottom and people's elbow, and The Rock said, fantastic. I don't know if he meant it. I hope he did. But when I'm standing there in front of Austin, he didn't say anything. He just turns away and continues talking to someone else. And I felt so bad because I had to leave and I didn't want to interrupt him, so I just kind of made my exit. And I've never spoken to him since. So I hope Stone Cold Steve Austin isn't mad at me, but if you want to win matches, you've got to use the best move that you can use, and that was the Stone Cold Stunner. I knew Eugene's in-ring product had to be different than everybody else's. And one aspect is the comeback. And I remember Jerry the King Lawler, one of my heroes, saw him do it so many times. Somebody would put his head in the buckle, and then he would just start to no-sell and start to hulk up a little bit, and they'd put it in a second time, and he'd come a little bit more to life, and they'd put it in a third time, and Lawler would drop the strap, and you knew that the stuff was on, right? So I wanted to do that myself, so that's exactly what Eugene did. I had people put my head in the buckle, and I would just start to make faces. That was one of the best things I did, because a lot of times the cameraman would know I was standing right in that corner, and they could zoom right in. And all I had to do was take the buckle and quarter turn just a little bit so the camera could get my face, and then my face is on TV, which is what we want. And then I would make the big comeback. I would do the right and left jabs, which I stole from Ric Flair, because I just thought they looked good. And then the big wind up, because that's just kind of a baby face, maybe a Southern baby face or just a baby face thing. The big wind up, boom, I had Ricky Steamboat as my agent once, and he was the one that suggested, instead of starting the comeback with the head in the buckle, start it in the middle where the guy's punching you. And you start it really in the middle and then start hulking up, much like Hulk Hogan did or Chief Jay Strongbow did. And once I did that, it was almost better, because the more it's in the middle of the ring, most of the time it means the most. All right, now let me take you behind the scenes on exactly who the WWE main event superstar was that gave me the key piece of advice to take the Eugene character from where I had it to being a megastar. The first time that Eugene went out in front of a crowd was in St. Louis before I started on TV. I remember coming back through the curtain. Triple H was there. Stephanie McMahon was there, Fit Finlay and Arn Anderson were both there, and they're all standing, give me a standing ovation. Triple H comes over and he says, you really embraced the character. You became the character out there. And then he said, I like the jacket, but what if you put your name on the back of the jacket, so when you turn it inside out, Eugene is on there backwards? So that's what I did. I went to a seamstress in Southern Indiana. They stitched Eugene on the back of the red jacket, so the inside white lining then had Eugene backwards. The tag on the jacket would stick out the back when I wore it inside out, but I still feel like a lot of people thought it was a white jacket that had Eugene on it backwards, as opposed to a red jacket with Eugene on it, and when you turned it inside out, it was backwards. If you haven't seen my previous episodes detailing the evolution of the Eugene character, please feel free to check them out here.